Declaration of Human Rights, he said, "The source of right is duty. If we all discharge our duties, rights will not be far to seek. If, leaving duties unperformed, we run after rights, they will escape us like will o' the wisp. The more we pursue them, the farther they will fly." With this thought in mind, the Field Outreach Bureau, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the Department of Collegiate Education, and Besant Women's College planned this national webinar on the topic Indian Constitution with a special focus on citizens' duties. Let us begin this webinar seeking divine grace.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada.
Welcome to all the guests and participants. Now I request Mr. G. Tukaram Gowda, IAS, Field Outreach Bureau, Ministry of I&B, Government of India, for your opening remarks, sir.
Good morning, everybody. It is my pleasure to give some words before the discussion on our Constitution. Our Constitution is one of the biggest and greatest works of literature and... Hello?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Carry on.
Our Constitution is one of the biggest constitutions of the world, and our forefathers, the drafting committee headed by Dr. Ambedkar and other well-known and knowledgeable persons drafted our Constitution, studying all the constitutions of the world, and gave us one of the best constitutions of the world. We have rights under Article 15, 13, 15 and Article 21. It was included in the Constitution and under 86th Amendment. And we have duties under 51A. It's the necessity of the present situation. The Constitution is the only hope during this situation to safeguard the biggest democracies of the world. I think this discussion, the national webinar, will throw some light upon the Constitution as well as the duties of the citizens, especially duties of the citizens during this time of crisis. And I hope all the well-versed persons in the field of Constitution and political science, they are giving their knowledge to us. I thank all the institutions and the departments for giving us joining hands with us, and I hope the webinar will be a success. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. We are happy to have an eminent person, Dr.Appaji Gowda, Regional Joint Director of Collegiate Education, Mangalore, to inaugurate this webinar. Dr.Appaji Gowda has served in many government colleges as faculty and head in the Department of Physics. He has rich experience of serving as grade 1 principal in many colleges. Since November 2018, he is working as the Joint Director of Mangalore region under the Department of Collegiate Education. With his leadership, the Mangalore region has emerged as the best region under the Department of Collegiate Education. I request our Honorable Joint Director, Dr. Appaji Gowda, to deliver the inaugural address.
Good morning to one and all. Friends, I'm audible to you.
Yes, sir.
So I'm happy to inaugurate the this webinar virtually today, organized by the Field Outreach Bureau, Mangalore Unit, Ministry of Broadcasting, Government of India, in collaboration with the Department of Collegiate Education, Government of Karnataka, and Besant Women's College, Mangalore. Thanks to organizers, they have selected a very relevant and nice topic, that is Indian Constitution, with special focus on citizens' duties. Most of the time, we are all fight for our constitutional right rather than our duties. If you look into the preamble of our Constitution, it hopes and aspirations of Indian people. A chapter on directive principle of state policy indicating the manner in which the people objectives can be obtained by legislative action with due respect to the fundamental rights of the citizen. The democratic system, a democratic system such as ours, depends for its success upon a government under constitutions, as expressed in laws, which must prevail amongst a law-abiding people and be enforced by courts armed with adequate powers and authority, and given a due respect to those through whom a constitution and law speaks. This is, in practice, in the meaning of supremacy of constitution. Also, in the preamble of the constitution, justice, social, economic, and political given a first place amongst the objects of our republic, because that is the primary concern of all progressive people throughout the world. If you see some of fundamental duties noted in the constitutions of course, it shall be a duties of every citizens of India to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, a national flag and national anthem, to cherish the cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom, to evolve the present, to evolve and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, compassion for living creatures, to develop a scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of reform, to safeguard public property, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individuals and collective activity, so that nation constantly rise to higher levels of endeavors and achievement. Friends, priority is national safety first. Social concern should be there. Every individual is a part of society, hence responsibility exists as far as possible. Render service to the society in which we live in the limit of possible. In the background of COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, we citizens have a special duty to observe, such as a social concern, take care of others. One should not become media to spread disease to others. It is duty of individual to safeguard his own health and health of family, give importance to maintain cleanliness, keep physical fitness by maintaining hygienic atmosphere in the surroundings. Finally, I conclude by saying this statement inculcate some of the best practices in our life so that we can have a better society. Thanks to organizers, participants, and well-wishers. I hope resource persons will throw more light on this. Thank you very much. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us. Before we move on to the keynote address, I request all the participants to mute your audio and put off the video. Questions will be taken at the end of the session. Kindly post your questions only in the chat box. E-certificates will be provided after filling the feedback form, for which the link will be posted in the chat box at the end of the webinar. Ms. Aruna, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Besant Women's College, will now introduce the keynote speaker, Dr. Satnam Singh, Head of the Department of Political Science, Gurunanak Dev University, Amritsar, Punjab.
It's an honor for me to introduce the keynote speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Satnam Singh. He is the head of the Department of Political Science, Gurunanak Dev University, Amritsar, Punjab. Dr. Satnam Singh has completed his MA in Political Science in the year 2003 and has been awarded a PhD for his thesis titled Violation of Protection of Human Rights in Punjab since 1992, a study of the role of human rights organization. He has also published a book on human rights in India, theory and practice. He has guided 7 research scholars and his research articles have been published in 25 national and international journals. It is a great pleasure to have you with us today, sir. A warm welcome to you. Over to Dr. Satnam Singh.
Yes, thank you very much, the host. The reason why I was not able to share anything with you earlier, I was not able to unmute myself from my side, because that permission was to be granted by the host. So thank you very much, dear host, for unmuting the mic. First of all, Sat Shri Akal, Namaskar, Salam to all those who are hearing me, who are watching me on video. Before I start saying anything formal and associated to today's event and today's topic, first of all, I want to pay my gratitude to all the organizers, especially the Field Outreach Bureau of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, then the Department of the Collegiate Education, Government of Karnataka, then the organizers and administrators belonging to the Besant College, that you have given me an opportunity topic which is very close to my emotions. I would reveal why. Since more than 10 years, I have been a student as well as a researcher associated to human rights. I have been conducting research on human rights. I have been reading out about human rights. I have been listening from various people about human rights. I have been writing about human rights since more than 12 or 13 years. But still, worldwide, including India, there is very little talk on duties. Everybody talks about rights. Everybody rights. Nobody talks about duties. So the organizers, they should be given credit that they have selected a very relevant but generally nobody wants to organizers. They should be on the topic, human duties and fundamental duties, about rights, nobody talks about duties. So a very relevant, but being a person who has been formally assigned the duty to speak as the keynote speaker, I would start from very basics. I hope those who have joined the meeting, the webinar, they are aware more or less about the various sociological terms and sociological phenomena which I am going to use while discussing fundamental duties. Whenever we talk about duties, the first, or how would I elaborate my discussion on duties, I would focus on 2 questions while while talking about fundamental duties. Those basic questions would be, what are these duties, fundamental duties? Okay, if we understand what are duties, then why are duties fundamental? I would try to discuss my viewpoint, my perspectives on these two basic questions. Whenever we generally say, what are duties? What comes in our minds? Duties are activities. Duties are activities. Okay, activities. What kind of activities? Can all activities be called as duties? No. Activities which are other regarding. Other regarding, what does it mean? It means any activities which are performed for others. Why should we perform any activity for others? Yes. The activities to be performed for the welfare of others, for the well-being of others, to consider, to realize and perform something or some activities for the attainment of rights of others. What are the duties? I'm not coming yet to fundamental duties. I would. Within 10, 12 minutes or 15 minutes, I would conclude my discussion. Okay, duties. Duties are activities which are performed by individuals regarding what? Regarding other human beings. Why? Again, I repeat, to consider, to realize, and accomplish the rights of others. Here we can settle the issue that fundamental duties or duties are not that much secondary as these are perceived by human beings. Duties are basic responsibility of human being towards all human beings, towards all humanity. Why? Why? To realize the rights of it. Here, two attributes or two features of duties come into life. Firstly, duties are related or relational. What does it mean? An individual living in an isolated place has no duties to perform. Why? Whatsoever he or she does, those functions cannot be called as duties. Why? Because duties are relational and related. What does it mean? Duties are always other regarding activities. Activities regarding others, to promote, to protect the rights of others, to realize the rights of others. Second attribute of fundamental duties. Again, I repeat, I have not yet reached to fundamental duties in India. I'm generally talking about duties. The second attribute of duties is duties are philanthropic. What does it mean? Duties are performed always with the intention of welfare of others. Any activities performed with selfish interests can never be called as duties. No. Duties are the activities which are philanthropic in nature. Firstly, duties are relational. Secondly, duties are philanthropic. Thirdly, duties should be voluntary. Voluntary. These are the voluntary activities, self-orienting activities of an individual towards other individuals. Other question, very relevant question arises. Okay, if fundamental duties or human duties are there, why should we perform these duties? What happens if one does not perform any duties? Most of the people generally do not perform all the duties. Look at our constitution for an example. Constitution had originally given only 10 duties, then even 11th duty is incorporated in constitution through an amendment, through a constitutional amendment. What I mean to say, whenever we talk about rights, we wish to broaden the scope of rights, but whenever there is an issue of duties, we always adopt a narrow approach, minimum duties. This is wrong. Why do I say so? When I would discuss with you the question, why are duties fundamental, or why are duties fundamental activities of all human beings? Those who have studied sociology or political science or economics, even at graduate level, they would be aware about a perspective called as social contract perspective. The social contract perspective perceives that society has been constructed by human beings through a mutual contract with each other, through a mutual contract of each other. What does it mean? All human beings in society have an implicit contract. Implicit means unconsciously consented contract with each other. What is that contract? I would protect your rights, and simultaneously or reciprocally, you have to protect my rights. What does it further mean? We all have a contract with each other. What is that contract? I would perform certain activities or duties which protect and promote your rights. Reciprocally, you have to protect and promote those rights which protect and promote those activities which protect and promote my rights. Duties are fundamental. Why? Because duties are the foundational basis of social contract. Besides this social contract, John Locke, Rousseau, Thomas Hobbes, these are three social scientists who have given the theory of social contract. They are of the view, especially John Locke says, the social contract has not only happened at the level of people only. No. Firstly, people, they had contract with each other. But what was that contract? Again, I repeat, I would perform duties to promote your rights. You have to perform activities to protect rights. Besides that, above that, human beings, they have settled a contract with a political institution called as state. What is the function of state? Besides that, a function called as state is to maintain equilibrium. Equilibrium of what? The function of state is to maintain a balance. Balance of what? Balance of the equal distribution of rights. For an example, whenever we talk about India's constitution, the first two chapters deal with the territory of India and who would be considered as citizens of India's territory and who would be considered as citizens. After those two primary chapters, what is the third chapter? And who would be considered? After those two primary chapters, what is the third chapter? The third chapter is about fundamental rights. Why? If you perceive the constitution of all countries, including India, from the perspective of fundamental rights and fundamental duties, what is constitution? Constitution is a political contract between state and its citizens. That is the reason. Firstly, the state defines citizens. Then it offers certain rights to its citizens. State is committed through that contract or constitution to provide rights to people, but reciprocally, the state demands, expects from its citizens that they have to perform certain duties as well. What does it show? It shows the existence of a political contract between state and its citizens. Why do I discuss this? Again, I repeat. From the perspective of social contract theory, fundamental duties are very necessary. Why? We have been having a contract with state that, okay, state says, if I provide you certain rights as fundamental rights, you have to perform certain duties. Again, from the perspective of other theories, systems approach, we can say, from the perspective of systems approach, duties are very necessary. Why? If we perceive society as a social system, there are certain social, religious, cultural institutions which are performing what? Which are performing various functions or various duties. If we perceive society as a social system, there are people associated to certain economic activities, political activities, social activities, legal activities. What they have been performing, they are performing their duties in social system. Duties provide the energy to social system to function, to operate. If people that do not perform any duty, social system cannot functionalize, cannot operate. For an example, if a policeman does not perform the duties of a policeman, he would not be recognized as a policeman. No. If a teacher does not perform the duties as a teacher, teacher would not be considered as a teacher. No. Why is a teacher considered as a teacher? Why is a policeman considered as a policeman? Because they provide or they perform certain duties in society which make them recognized through their activities, through their duties, which are fundamental for societies. Now, after discussing that duties or fundamental duties are fundamental, and these are fundamental, why? Because these are part of social contract which all human beings have been having with each other, and which citizens and state, both of these parties, are having with each other. Then through system approach, we all are talking about rights. Economic institutions, political institutions, religious institutions are operational to accommodate rights to people. But actually, duties are the energies which operationalize, which functionalize every society. Here I want to discuss with you the Western approach with regard to duties and Indian approach with regard to duties. Western approach is narrow with regard to rights and duties, especially duties. Why? Western perspective talks only about rights, claims, liberalism. All liberal theory, especially since the 17th, 16th, 17th century of Western world, focuses on rights and claims. But Indian perspective never talks about rights. Let me tell you one thing. In English, there is a word called as right. In Hindi, there is a word called as adhikar. The meaning of English word right is claim. I have a claim over something. Right means a claim. I have claim over something. But meaning of adhikar is not claim. No. You can verify this from any expert of Sanskrit. The word adhikar is actually a compound words, adhi and kriya. Adhi means happening consistently. Kriya means an activity. What is the meaning of adhikar? Adhikar means performing an activity consistently. Adhikar does not mean claim. No. Adhikar means duty. Why did Indian scholars focus on duties? Why didn't they focus on claims? They were very rational. They were very practical. Why? If all people, they keep on asking for rights and claims, nobody would be able to get any rights. But if all people, they keep on performing their duties towards others, automatically all people, they would start attaining their rights. Now I focus on fundamental duties mentioned in India's constitution. Fundamental duties. I have already tried or attempted to explain why are duties fundamental from the viewpoint of social contract, from the viewpoint of systems, social systems approach. Fundamental duties mentioned in India's constitution. The foremost duty, the first duty, what does constitution expects from its citizens? Most expectedly or at foremost level, to respect and abide by the constitution and its ideals. But let me again repeat this to you. From the perspective of human duties, constitution is a contract which has happened between state and citizens. State says, I have already provided you, I have already granted certain fundamental rights of all citizens, and dear citizens, reciprocally, when now I have provided you certain rights, reciprocally, first of all, you have to respect the contract. What is contract? Constitution is the contract. You have to respect that contract. Why? If people, they do not respect the Constitution, what are the consequences? It means people, they violate the basic contract with their state. What does it further mean? It means that people, they would revert back to the society of animals, to the stage of savages and beasts. Which determinant or which attribute establishes human civilizations as human civilizations? Because they have contract with each other to protect rights of each other through duties. Because they have formed constitutions which work as contracts to perform certain duties to protect rights of others. If we observe the nature of fundamental duties mentioned in India's constitution, firstly, there are state-specific duties. Firstly, there are constitution-specific duties. State expects people to respect various clauses, various ideals, as well as various institutions of constitution. What does it mean? If people, they do not respect the constitution, its ideals and its institutions, for an example, executive, judiciary, legislature, what would happen? The government would not be in a position to attain legitimacy. The government would not be able to operate in India or in country. What would be the implications? There would be anarchy. There would be stateless prevailing in India. So fundamental duties. First of all, Constitution expects that Constitution, its ideals and its institutions should be respected. Then fundamental duties which are political in nature. Here, the nationalist struggle, when our political ideologies are expected to be respected. Then social duties are there, social duties. Equality, all people, they should observe, they should recognize all people as equal. There should be sense of fraternity and sense of brotherhood. People, they should adopt scientific temperament. Then there are environmental duties to protect lakes, rivers, mountains. Why have the makers incorporated fundamental duties of various natures, of various kinds? Why? Because the makers or the introducers, they expected that Indian citizens, first of all, they should respect the Constitution. Then they should respect the governmental institutions. Then they should respect each other. Then people, they should render national service whenever it is required. For an example. Next thing which I want to discuss about the nature of fundamental duties. Fundamental duties are evolutionary. Fundamental duties mentioned in India's constitution are developmental, evolutionary, and growing in nature. The moment the policy makers or the legislators or the leaders of the country, they realized that education was the primary necessity, was the primary right of all children belonging to India. They assigned a duty to all parents to provide basic education to all their children. What does it prove? It proves that fundamental duties mentioned in Constitution of India are progressive, are evolutionary. These are not narrow, these are not closed, these are broadened, and these are evolutionary in nature. Next question, which is generally asked from me by the students and those who have curiosity in fundamental duties: should fundamental duties be the legal bindings? Should these fundamental duties enforced through legal mechanism? Do you know what is my answer? My answer is the same question. Should these be? If anybody asks me, should fundamental duties be legally enforced? What is my answer? My answer is, should these be? After the evolutionary growth and civilizational progress of human beings of thousands of years, still, is there any requirement that state or any legal agency should enforce us, should compel us with the use of coercive force to obey these fundamental duties? It means we have not yet reached to the level of humanity. We should expect from each other that yes, we have reached to the level of humanity. Let me tell you one thing. At the stage of animals, if we perceive the growth of fundamental duties through evolutionary process, in the society of animals, there is no mention of rights and duties. What prevails in the society of animals? Only the instinct of interest. Every bird, every animal has the fervor, has the vigor, has the intention, has the instinct of satisfying interest. What is the difference between human beings and animals? Human beings, they do not go for their interest. No, they now focus on claims, legitimate claims, which are called as rights. But let me tell you one thing. In future, when societies would be wiser, when societies would become truly human societies, nobody would talk about interests. Nobody would talk about rights or claims. No, everybody would be talking about adhikar, which means performing duties, performing activities regarding others. Thank you very much, dear friends, for giving me the time. Now, here I end up my discussion. I would keep on listening, hearing all the people. If there would be any queries, any questions regarding me, I request the organizers to make those questions and queries reach to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking address. Today's chief guest, Dr.S.S. Sreeskumar, Head of the Department of Political Science, Jawaharlal Nehru Rajakeeya Mahavidyalaya, Pondicherry University, Port Blair, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, will be introduced by Mr. Arun, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, Besant Women's College, Mangalore.
It's my honor to introduce today's chief guest, Dr. Sreeskumar. He has pursued his MA in Political Science from the University of Kerala in 1980. He has been awarded PhD on his thesis titled Development Administration from the University of Kerala in 1985. And he also completed his MA in Public Administration from the University of Madras in 1987. He had written many national and international articles. He has written 49 journals and 2 books titled Program Planning in Higher Education and Tribal Development Legislation and Enforcement. With this small introduction, now I request the chief guest of today's webinar, Dr. Sreeskumar, to speak a few words. Over to you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Respected officers of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Chief Publicity Officer Rohit, then professors and principal professors and students of Besant College, officials, Director of College Education, Government of Karnataka, other dignitaries, dear students, and other guests, friends. First of all, I express my thanks to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to express my words and share my opinion on the topic duties and responsibilities of citizens. Special reference to Indian Constitution. Let me start with an introduction of the Indian Constitution, then we will come to the duties and responsibilities. The Constitution of India is founded on two premises. One is democracy and the other one is rule of law. One does not exist without the other. Apart from allocating the powers to the federation and the legislature, executive and judiciary, the purpose of the Constitution is to achieve social and distributive justice. Yes, India's Constitution is the India's Constitution is the longest constitution in the world, containing 395 articles, divided into 22 parts and 12 schedules. On 26th January 1950, India became a republic, and on the same day, the Constitution of India came into force. Our Constitution is considered as the basic law of the land. Of the Indian polity, working within the framework of the Constitution, are as follows. The Constitution is supreme. Sovereignty of India cannot be surrendered or pledged. And our democracy is not merely a system or a setup to provide adult franchise, but it is a way of life. We consider democracy as a way of life. Then secularism and independence of judiciary are two pedestals of this democracy. Coming to the other features, the Constitution incorporates federal setup, there is federalism. System that the Constitution guarantees fundamental rights and fundamental duties to citizens of the country. There is a system of checks and balances. The institutions of President, Council of Ministers, Parliament, and the Supreme Court. And coming to the role of citizens and the people of India are the ultimate custodians of the Constitution. It is in them that sovereignty vests, and it is in their name that Constitution was adopted. The Constitution empowers the citizen too empowers the Constitution by following it, adhering to it, and protecting it, and by preserving it to make more meaningful with the words and deeds. The Constitution is nobody's preserved, and it is everybody's preserved. Let us come to the concept duties. I am thankful to Dr.Satnam Singh, who has given a very background, theoretical and conceptual framework of the fundamental duties, since he has a specialized in the human rights. I thank him, appreciate him for his conceptual and theoretical background of the fundamental duties. Let us see. Just as the Constitution advocates, any Constitution advocates certain obligations of the state citizens, the rights and duties of the citizens to the state are also set. Any democratic polity have two things, duties and responsibilities. Let us examine the difference. Duties means things a citizen must do. Responsibilities mean things a citizen should do. A duty, also called obligation, is something that a citizen is required to do by law. Examples of duties include obeying law, paying tax, defending the nation, etc. Citizens also have responsibilities. These are things that they should do, but are not required by law. Examples include your franchise, that is voting, attending civic meetings, petitioning the government, etc. Then coming to the rationale or the significance of the duties, of fundamental duties in the Indian context, can be summarized and observed by quoting the words of our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. I quote, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." Satnam Singh told that this other regarding about the other regarding. So this is also applicable to this one. So once again I quote, "The best way to quote, where to find out yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others," unquote. According to him, every citizen plays a key role in building a new India. That means a clean, healthy, and prosperous nation. Everyone performing their duties, even mechanically also, would pave the way for better neighborhood, better society, and leading to a better nation. Let us examine the fundamental duties enshrined in our constitution. When the constitution was adopted in the year 1949, there was no provision for fundamental duties to citizens, though there is a fundamental rights even in part 3. Fundamental duties of citizens were added to the Constitution of India by 2 amendments. That is the first 10 duties by the 47th Amendment to the Constitution of India in 1976, and the last one by 86th Amendment in 2002. Fundamental duties basically imply the moral obligations of all citizens of a country, and today there are 11 fundamental duties which are given in 51A in part 4 of the Constitution, mainly to promote patriotism, unity of India. Even though it has been given by our former speakers, I once again repeat the various duties to make it clear. Fundamental duties even in the Constitution include abide by the Constitution and respect for national flag, national anthem. That means a sense of loyalty to the state. Then second is follow the ideals of the freedom struggle. Then third one, the citizens have their duty to protect the sovereignty and integrity of the country. We have duty to defend the country and enter national services when there is a need. We have a spirit of common brotherhood. We should cultivate, preserve, and composite culture. Very essential nowadays to preserve natural environment and develop a scientific temper. It is very important to safeguard the public property. Then we have to strive for excellence, and the 11th duty, which is very essential to boost education for all. Duty of all parents, guardians, to send their children in the age group of 6 to 14 to the school. These are the duties even in the Constitution, added in the Constitution by 2 amendments. The above mentioned duties, coming to the other aspect, give an insight into what might be seen as a constituting a good citizenship. It means if you observe all these majority of the duties, even mechanically also, it will constitute a good citizenship. The duties provided in the Constitution are intended to obligate all citizens to strive for common benefit of all. Then, once again, as responsible citizens, it is a duty of everyone to cast the vote, to pay taxes regularly, utilize the resources and subsidies, incentives provided by the government in a righteous manner to help the accident and disaster victims. It is very important nowadays. We are facing the epidemic all over the world. So, the duty of every citizen to involve and participate and help the victims, disaster victims and patients, then to keep the premises clean, to contribute to the relief funds, to prevent the civil wars and to raise against injustice. Then in the present day context, I am giving the idea of the context. It has become increasingly important to instill a vigorous sense of civic responsibility among Indians, especially among the young generation. I observe from various studies conducted in various parts of my duty place and in my hometown and other studies, we can see that even though we are developing a lot, there is a lack of civic responsibility among the citizens. The only way is those who are youngsters, they create and generate a sense of civic responsibility among the citizens. Then coming to the social aspect, Indian society is a pluralistic one, and therefore it faces always differences and divergences of opinion in matters pertaining to religion, caste, then race, color, region, language, etc. But what is more important is our constitution is the only fabric that weaves all these differences together and strengthen it. Strengthen the social framework or fabric of Indian society. It is the responsibility of every citizen to inculcate values such as tolerance, peace, and communal harmony. I insist on the people of the country to have the values of inculcate the values of tolerance, peace, and communal harmony. These duties were drafted on the lines of moral, ethical, and cultural code of conduct, which are to be followed by the people to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of the country. It also helps the government in maintaining proper governance and enabling the proper functioning of a democratic society, and as such help to evolve good governance. What I am insisting and focusing is that if all citizens, or majority citizens, are observing their duties in a very sincere manner, the system can be, the political system or the administrative system can be run in a very specific manner. The World Bank has given the idea of what is called good governance in the 1990s, and in good governance, among other things, the significant aspect is what's called participation. So only if the people participate in the socio-political life, that will give input to the state, the political system, to for the proper functioning of the democratic society. So, dear students and the states, the future of the nation is in your hands. Democracy cannot establish roots in society until the citizens do not complement fundamental rights with duties. Here is my humble request and appeal to the potential young generation, those who are hearing, especially the young generation. Let us together build a responsible India. Let us together imbibe the spirit of responsibility to achieve full potential of our country. Let us all remember our fundamental duties in the same way as we remember our fundamental rights. Third point is very important. My former speakers have already given some idea, or we have given some light on the topic. We are all very eager to tell about rights. Whenever we have any claim, as given by former speaker, claim, we will represent in the matter of our rights. Always we will remember our rights, but we may not remember duties as we remember our rights. So what is more important is we have to remember both. As we remember our rights, the same way we have to remember our duties also, especially to the society, or to the family, to the neighborhood, to the society and polity. Dear students, one matter is significant. As much as we have the rights to question the democracy and its functioning as citizens of India, we have also have the obligation to follow fundamental civic duties, which in turn will help in the betterment of the and progress of the nation. As rightly pointed by our Prime Minister recently, I quote him, "Our constitution is the dignity of every Indian and paves way for unity of India," unquote. Hence, to serve our rights, let us consciously perform our duties to the nation. As my conclude, as my suggestion and as concluding remark, I appeal to citizens, especially the youth, to devote attention to the following matters in social and political life. First is, all of us have to sincerely observe duties and responsibilities, which help. Secondly, to instill a sense of civic responsibility, which I told you is being lacking. Participatory approach is lacking in many parts of India, among the people of India. So a civic responsibility, instill a civic responsibility among other citizens. And third thing is, all of us have to become part of a socio-economic development of the nation through democratic participation. And by observing all these steps, we have to enrich and empower ourselves or empower yourself. So enrich yourself and empower yourself by following the above mentioned steps to create a good citizenship, to create a good governance, to create a good nation. So, Jai Hind. Once again, I express my thanks to Mr. Rohit, field officer, and other officials of the Ministry of Information Broadcasting, Department of College Education, Government of Karnataka, and Besant College, and other dignitaries, other professors for giving me a chance to speak on the occasion. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. Now I request Dr. Satish, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Besant Women's College, to introduce our resource person, Madam Raviprabha.
I am delighted to introduce our resource person, Mrs. Raviprabha, who is presently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science, Besant Women's College, Mangalore. Raviprabha ma'am, who is known for her efficient teaching, has an experience of 19 years. She has worked as an assistant NSS officer of the college for 12 years. She is also a proud alumni of Besant Women's College. She has completed one UGC-sponsored minor research project on the topic Kishori Shakti Yojana, scheme for the empowerment of adolescent girls, study with reference to selected Anganawadis in Mangalore area. She has also been a resource person for various programs, including All India Radio. A teacher who is fondly revered by the students and who is also known for her organizing skills. Raviprabha madam, it's a pleasure to have you as a resource person. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Now I request Raviprabha madam to take over the session. Over to you, madam.
A very good afternoon to all. At the very outset, I would like to thank Mr. G. Tukaram Gowda, IAS, and Mr. Rohit GS, the Field Outreach Bureau of Mangaluru, for providing me an opportunity to be a resource person of today's webinar. It's a privilege for me to speak on the topic Indian Constitution with special focus on citizens' duties. Before I begin, let me share the screen. the Constitution of India is one of the largest and unique constitution. It is the result of a deliberate attempt made by the Constituent Assembly. The task of preparing a new constitution for free India was a real challenge for the Assembly. In the process of making of the constitution, Assembly had to face many challenges, that especially in socio-economic political arena. So the new constitution had to dedicate itself to the goal of social revolution. This was well expressed in the words of Pandit Nehru. He said, the very first task of Assembly was to free India through a new constitution, to feed the starving people and to provide fullest opportunity to develop oneself. The objective resolution moved by Pandit Nehru was adopted on January 22nd, 1947, envisaged the concept of justice. When I say concept of justice, it included social, economic, political, and also equality of status and of opportunity. It gave Assembly its guiding principles, and this objective resolution later took the form of preamble to the Constitution. The Constitution of India, of course, it was framed by the Constituent Assembly, but it was a drafting committee which played a very important role in the preparation of Constitution under the able leadership of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The Assembly's decision to give independent India a new constitution was not made within a day. It was a long process. Assembly had to hold number of deliberations and debates. It worked for nearly 2 years, 11 months and 18 days, and then adopted our constitution on 26 November 1949, but ultimately came into existence on January 26, 1950. Before I move on to the main topic, that is citizens' duties, I would like to throw light on some aspects, that especially the preamble of the Indian Constitution, which is a novel aspect of our Constitution, which begins with the word, "We the people of India." Now the word "we the people of India" indicates that it is the people of India who have the sovereign power. The ultimate power lies in the hands of people. And the framers of the Indian Constitution declared our nation as sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. These two words, that is socialist and secular, were added to the Indian Constitution after the 42nd Amendment. This was not there in the original Constitution. The preamble to the Indian Constitution, as I had already mentioned when I was talking about objective resolution, which was moved by Jawaharlal Nehru, it ensures justice, that is social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, faith, belief, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, that is the feeling of brotherhood, common brotherhood. Now, by having feeling of brotherhood, we can assure the dignity of individual and also strive to achieve unity and integrity of our nation. This word integrity was also added to the Indian Constitution after the 42nd Amendment. So, the preamble of the Indian Constitution, which is the first part, an introductory part of the Constitution, speaks about the aims and objectives of our nation. It upholds the dignity and also it provides justice, liberty, equality. And these aspects are very much spelled in part 3 and part 4 of the Indian Constitution in a detailed manner. Now, this preamble of the Indian Constitution is like a mirror of the Constitution. It reflects the aspects, that is various aspects of the Constitution. It is a basic structure of the Constitution, and it, of course, it forms a part of the Constitution which was upheld by the Supreme Court in the Keshavanand Bharati case. Moving on to the next aspect, that is part 3 of the Indian Constitution dealing with fundamental rights. We all have fundamental rights. The fundamental rights are the most important rights of a citizens. Everybody wants to enjoy rights. The rights and duties, which I'll be speaking little later, always go hand in hand. The framers of the Indian Constitution has granted us, the Constitution has granted us 6 important fundamental rights. Original Constitution, of course, it consisted of 7 rights, but 1 has been deleted, dealing with right to property. Starting with right to equality, which is mentioned under Article 14 to 18 of the Indian Constitution. It provides for different aspects of equality. It speaks about legal equality. Article 14 provides for legal equality. Article 15 prohibits discrimination. The discrimination which is made on the basis of caste, religion, sex, place of birth, or any of them. In the same Article 15, under different clause, the state has a responsibility. That is, the state can take steps in order to improve the conditions of women and children. That means the framers of the Constitution have followed a policy of inclusion. They have included everybody, the marginalized section of the society. Article 16 provides for equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. And the most important article, that is Article 17, bans untouchability. By banning untouchability, the dignity of the individual is upheld. Article 18, of course, it bans titles, awarding of titles. Any title other than military and academic titles cannot be awarded. And the citizens are also prohibited from any titles from any foreign nation without the permission from the Government of India, that is seeking permission from the President of India. Moving on to the next freedom, in brief, Article 19 to 20 of the Indian Constitution speaks about right to fundamental freedom. Article 19 provides for 6 freedoms. That is, Article 19, Clause A provides for, Clause 1, Subclause A provides for right to freedom of speech and expression. The next freedom is right to freedom of assembly, and then right to form association, and then the next freedom is right to move freely, and then right to freedom of residence. And the last freedom, which is mentioned under Article 19, is right to freedom of profession. Not only that, the Constitution of India has given protection to its citizens against excessive punishments. It gives us protection against excessive punishment. That is, double jeopardy. It gives us protection against double jeopardy. Self-incrimination. Nobody can be compelled to give witness against ourselves. And the most important right is, that is right to Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, speaking about right to life and personal liberty. Now, all these rights are enshrined in the UDHR of, that is, human rights, the Charter on Human Rights. So, the Part 3 of the Indian Constitution also speaks about the fundamental right. It speaks about fundamental right is also a human right. After the 86th Amendment, one more right has been included to the Indian Constitution. That is Article 21 Clause A, dealing with right to education. It's the duty of the state to provide free and compulsory primary education to the children between the age group of 6 to 14 years. 6 to 14 years. Speaking about Article 22 of the Indian Constitution, which provides protection against arbitrary arrest and detention. Nobody can be arrested arbitrarily. Everybody, whoever is arrested arbitrarily, arrested, has to be informed about the cause of their arrest. And they also should be produced before the court of law within 24 hours of time. So this gives us protection against arbitrary arrest and detention. Moving on to the next right, speaking about right against exploitation, which is mentioned under Article 23 to 24 of the Indian Constitution. Article 23 of the Indian Constitution prohibits forced labor, trafficking, or beggary. In the same article, the next clause says that, of course, all these are prohibited. Any form of forced labor is to be prohibited and it is considered as an offense. But in the next clause, it is said, Article 23 Clause A provides that the state can impose compulsory service for public purpose. So this cannot be considered as forced labor. The same thing is reflected under Part 4 Clause A of the Indian Constitution. When I speak about fundamental duties, I'll be speaking about this particular right. Right to freedom of religion, which is mentioned under Article 25 to 28 of the Indian Constitution, once again gives freedom to its citizens to practice, profess, and propagate any religion of our choice. And then Article 26 also gives right to manage religious affairs. Article 27 of the Indian Constitution prohibits any kind of payment of tax, especially for the promotion of one particular religion. Article 28 prohibits imparting of religious instruction in aided institutions. The next right speaking about is cultural and educational right. That is Article 29 of the Indian Constitution. Now, when we speak about Article 29 to 30 of the Indian Constitution, this right specially protects the rights of minorities. The rights of minorities are protected here. Article 29 of the Indian Constitution has given right to these minorities, that is, whether they are linguistic minorities or religious minorities. They have the right to conserve and preserve their culture. And then Article 30 has given right to all the minorities to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. And not only that, in the next clause, it is said the state cannot make any differences while granting aid to these institutions on the ground, saying that these are managed by the minority institutions. Moving on to one more right of the Indian Constitution, that is right to constitutional remedies, which is mentioned under Article 32 of the Indian Constitution. The father of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, has rightly called this right as heart and soul of the Indian Constitution. Because without these rights, it has provided a kind of remedy through which we can move to the court of law in order to protect our rights whenever our rights are violated. Therefore, in the absence of these rights, all the other rights becomes meaningless. It becomes meaningless. Therefore, the list of fundamental rights in brief, I would like to say that is a Magna Carta Charter of the Indian Constitution, which has given protection to its citizens. Moving on to the next aspect, the very important aspect of today's topic, that is fundamental duties. Now, why fundamental duties? As I made a mention of fundamental duty when I was talking about fundamental rights, I said everybody would like to claim rights. We demand something from the state, but we sometimes fail to perform duties. Therefore, the rights and duties always go together. Without the rights, there won't be duty, and without duty, there won't be any rights. The list of fundamental rights was not there in the original constitution. It was added to the constitution after the 42nd Amendment passed in the year 1976, thereby inserting Article 51 Clause A to the Indian Constitution. Now, when this list was added to the Indian Constitution, we had 10 fundamental duties. All of us know. One more duty has been inserted to the Indian Constitution after the 86th Amendment, that is dealing with right of the parent. As I said, Article 21 Clause A, which provided for right to education, has also made it a duty of the parents to provide education to his child or ward between the age of 6 to 14 years. Now, let me briefly speak about the rights which are mentioned in our constitution, that is, duties which are mentioned in our constitution. The first and foremost duty is to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals, institution, the national flag and national anthem. Of course, being a citizen of India, it is a bounden duty to respect the institutions and the ideals, the national flag and national anthem, to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. We have to cherish these ideals, uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. This is possible if we have the feeling of common brotherhood. We can definitely uphold the unity and integrity of India, defend the country and render national service whenever called upon to do so. I said, when I was talking about Article 23 of the Indian Constitution, I said, one of the clause of Article 23 makes it very clear, saying that the state can impose compulsory service for public purpose. That means imposing compulsory service for public purpose is not a forced labor. In fact, it is a duty of the citizens. Whenever it is needed, we have to render our service to our society, to our state. Moving on to the next duty, that is to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, regional or sectional diversities, and to renounce practices which are derogatory to the dignity of women. Of course, we have to transcend all our linguistic and regional diversities. And once again, this is possible when we have the feeling of brotherhood. Not only that, we have to renounce all the practices which are derogatory to the dignity of women. That means the women's rights has to be upheld. And of course, the state has already taken a number of steps in order to protect the rights of women. And being a citizen of India, it is our bounden duty to respect women. The next duty, which is mentioned here, is to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. This is not only a duty, it is also mentioned under the list of directive principles of state policy that the state shall also take steps in order to preserve all the composite culture and the historical monuments and buildings. The next duty of Indian citizen is to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for all living creatures. Of course, we have to protect our natural environment. It is our bounden duty. And with the intention of protecting and promoting the natural environment, Now, the Supreme Court has given a judgment saying that the lessons has to be included in the schools, that is in the curriculum of the schools, so that an awareness among the students can be created with regard to the protection and promotion of the environment. The next duty is to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. We have to give up all our superstitious beliefs. We have to move towards spirit of inquiry and reform. The next one, which was added recently, that is the 11th duty. That is, it is a duty of the parent to provide his or his child or ward education, that is free primary education, between the age group of 6 to 14 years. Of course, that means the Constitution has made it very clear. It is not only the duty of the state to provide free and compulsory education to the children between the age group of 6 to 14 years, which in the form of a fundamental right, but it is a bounded duty of the parents to provide education to their children. Now, all these duties are, which are enshrined in the Constitution, are in harmony with the UDHR, that is Article 29 of the UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which provides that everyone has duties to the community, in which alone the final and full development of personality is possible. So if one wants to develop a personality to the fullest extent, then we need to perform certain duties. Not only demanding rights from the state, but we need to perform certain duties towards the state. Now, as I said, the list of duty was not there in the original Constitution. This was added little later, that was after the 42nd Amendment. Now, what was the main purpose of adding these duties to the Constitution? The main purpose was to make the citizens more aware of their socio-economic responsibilities, and also to warn them to do or not to do certain things in the interest of the country, their fellow citizens, and also themselves. Incorporation of fundamental duties does not mean that, in the later days, does not mean that there were no duties before 42nd Amendment. Of course, there were duties. The fundamental duties embodied in the Constitution implied, the fundamental rights embodied in the Constitution implies corresponding duties or the obligations towards the citizens. Now, these rights and duties are always correlated. They are inalienable. It is like, it cannot be separated. You can't think of having rights in the absence of duties. One man's duty is another man's rights. If I respect the rights of others, he has to, if I perform duties, I'm respecting the rights of others. Like, for example, I have a right to life. Same way, I have to respect the rights of others. And therefore, we cannot think of having rights in the absence of duties. Both always go hand in hand. The duties enshrined in this part are to be performed by the citizens in an excellent manner. Not that half-heartedly we need to perform these duties. We have to dedicate ourselves to perform these duties. As an enlightened citizens, we will have to place public interest above personal interest. This is a need of the hour. In the context of COVID-19 pandemic crisis, I feel our civic responsibility has increased. We as a responsible citizen will have to focus and follow the guidelines which are issued by both national and the state governments from time to time. One should never forget our duties. We need to promote harmony in the society. The directions issued by the government fall within the purview of duties. It falls within the purview of duties. As Supreme Court has upheld, saying that social distancing is a matter of duty related to abjure violence, which is mentioned under Article 51A, Clause I of the Indian Constitution. Of course, we need to distance ourselves. We have to follow these guidelines if we want to reduce the transmission of the pandemic crisis. Wearing mask conforms to scientific temper. Their use will give protection against COVID-19. Therefore, we need to follow these guidelines. Therefore, the social distancing, using sanitization, wearing mask, all these are all these are the part of life. It has become a part of life now. By doing this, we are respecting the life of others. It's a matter of concern, and by showing concern, we can maintain harmony in the society, which is reflected in the list of fundamental duty. The Chief Justice of Supreme Court, S.A. Bobde, he observed that every individual will have to cooperate in the implementation measures defined to reduce transmission of coronavirus, apart from enjoying the protection of fundamental rights. We should also commit ourselves to the performance of duty as required by society and governance. Therefore, I would like to quote Mahatma Gandhi, who says, the enjoyment of fundamental rights is a result of performing duty. I feel during this pandemic situation, state has really acted as a welfare state. Everybody performed their duty in an efficient manner. That is, including the less privileged. We started calling them as the warriors. So, keeping in view the responsibility of all of us started showing concern towards each other. Of course, we need to show concern in the near future also. It is our bounden duty. So, therefore, the duties and rights are like two faces of the same coin. Society will definitely develop to its fullest extent only with a responsible citizenry. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. Thank you. There is one question by Professor Syed Kader. Are the fundamental duties of the citizens conferred by the Constitution is absolute? No, definitely not. Of course, I have not made a mention when I was talking about fundamental rights of the Indian citizen. These are not absolute. Though they are fundamental, the one important feature of fundamental right is the Constitution has laid reasonable restriction on the freedom of individual. It has imposed reasonable restriction, keeping in view the morality, the decency, public health. All these conditions, the state can impose restriction at any time, and therefore the rights are not at all absolute, but they are of course fundamental. Whether there is one more question, whether there is legal right, there is legal remedy. Is this referred to overall adhering to duties and rights? Of course, where there is legal right, there is remedy. That is what the framers of the Constitution have made it very clear by providing remedies in the form of constitutional remedies under Article 32 of the Indian Constitution. The rights are, the duties are adhered to rights. There are a number of remedies which are available. I would like to make a mention saying that as we demand something from the state, it is our bounden duty. So we don't have to wait for something or the orders which are issued by the government in order to perform our duties. When we perform our duty, when we enjoy our rights, we need to perform our duties being a responsible citizen of India. The duties and rights of an individual is like two faces of the same coin. Of course, it holds good because, as I said, I've been telling, both cannot be separated from each other. These are so correlated. If one has to exist, the other will also exist. And therefore, it is said that I agree, saying that both are the two faces of the same coin. Thank you.
It's time for us to wind up the session with vote of thanks. Over to Mr. Mahavir, Head of the Department of Political Science, for vote of thanks.
It gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of Besant Women's College. The organized webinar in association with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India, Field Outreach Bureau, Mangalore, Department of Collegiate Education, Karnataka, and Department of Political Science and Economics, Besant Women's College. First of all, I would like to thank Dr.Appaji Gowda, Joint Director, Regional Office, Mangalore. In spite of his busy schedule, he made it to inaugurate the webinar. So, on behalf of Besant Women's College, I extend very heartful thanks to you, sir. I also thank Mr. Tukaram Gowda, IAS, and Mr. Rohit, Field Outreach Bureau, Publicity Office, Mangalore, for their constant support and encouragement in order to organize this webinar in our college. Thank you, sirs. It is my duty to propose vote of thanks to Dr. Satnam Singh, Professor and Head of the Department of Political Science, Gurunanak Dev University, Amritsar, Punjab, for his thought-provoking and very beautiful presentation on the said topic. Thank you, sir. I also thank you, Dr. Sreeskumar, the Professor and Head of the Department of Political Science, Jawaharlal Nehru, Rajakeeya Mahavidyalaya, Pondicherry University, Port Blair, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, who presented his views in a very lucid and in a very beautiful manner. I extend my very heartfelt thanks to you, sir. I also extend my very heartfelt thanks to Mrs.Raviprabha, who highlighted the preamble and fundamental rights and duties enshrined in our Constitution, and also emphasized the present scenario in which the people have to follow certain duties, especially during the COVID-19 scenario. Very thanks to you, Madam. I also extend my very thanks to Madam Usha, who completed the program, and all faculty members of Department of Political Science and Economics, Dr. Satish K, Aruna Madam, Arun Kumar, Madam Prajna, for their cooperation in organizing this webinar in this particular occasion. I would like to mention the help extended by Ritesh and his team, who are the technical staff of our college, who rendered support and who made it possible, even though it with some difficulty started delayed start, but anyhow they made it. Therefore, thank you. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants who participated and put questions to the resource person, and for their participation on behalf of Besant Women's College. I thank you all. Thank you one and all.